And that is why I wanted to write a book that really encapsulated that belief that I have, that witchcraft can see you through the darkest possible times, that it's the times when you're on the floor, in the dark, alone, not sure what the hell to do, and everything feels like it's crumbling apart. Those times you break glass in case of emergency and you grab the wand, the proverbial wand. Hello, my darling cupcakes. Welcome. Thank you for joining me for this video where I get to officially announce for you here on YouTube, the hub of my online life, that I have finally completed my second book.
The show goes on!
I am thrilled. So excited. If you're new around here and you do not know me very well, and you do not know that I previously had written a book, this is my first offering, Rebel Witch, Carve a Craft That's Yours Alone, which came out in April of 2021. And ever since then, I have been laboring over and pondering over and sweating over a second offering in the kind of witchcraft domain. And that is the project that I've just finished, Witch in Darkness, Magic for Tough Times, Bad Days, and Moments of Total Catastrophe. That is the title of the book. I know, it's a lot, it's big, it's deep. And today with this video, I just want to talk a little bit about why I'm so excited about it, what it includes, what can you expect if you decide to read this book, and a little bit about how I feel having come to the end of the writing process. And it's been proofread now, and it's going to print very shortly, and it will be available to purchase in October. You can actually pre-order it right now anywhere reputable. In a lot of countries, I know some countries it's not ready for pre-order yet, so depending on where you are and everything, but I know lots of people have pre-ordered it already. Thank you so much, and thank you for the overwhelmingly kind and positive response I received when I announced this a few days ago on Instagram and Facebook. It was so heartwarming to see so many people saying that they've been waiting for something from me, they want this book, they can't wait to read it, they've pre-ordered it. Like, all of that just made me absolutely glow, guys. You cannot imagine. I feel like I'm beaming, I feel like I'm radiating something from me at this moment in my life, knowing that I've come to the end of this project and that I've read through it in its completion twice over. I've read the entire thing and I actually love it. You know, I actually love it. I feel very confident and very pleased with what I've produced. It was what I wanted to put into the world. And I want to talk to you in this video a little bit about why I've put it into the world and what is it and what is coming to you if you actually want to get involved with this. And I hope that you will. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about Witch in Darkness. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm making this video. This is just give me a moment, okay? Just give me a moment. Oh, I'm so pleased. I'm so relieved as well. I'll talk to you a little bit at the end of the video about my personal journey with writing this book and why I'm so relieved that it's come to fruition, and I'm so relieved I'm able to make this video for you. Because, you know, it was touch and go. There were a couple of occasions with this book where it was touch and go, but I'll come to that at the end. First of all, what the fuck is in this book? What is it all about? Why should you buy it and enjoy it and relish it and review it, and or reject it out of hand if you want to? I'm not expecting everybody to like it, okay? That would be naive. But I want to talk a little bit about, why I feel so riveted by the thing that I have just done, okay? I did a thing, as they say, and I'm just gripped by the magnitude I feel about what this means and what the offering is. I believe in witchcraft as a tool for survival. I believe that my witchcraft has gotten me through. I know, as Carl Gustav Jung would say. I know that witchcraft has gotten me through the most difficult, dangerous, and challenging battles of my life, whatever they happen to be, whether it was physical injury that I've experienced, mental health issues, deep and unexpected bereavement, aching, agonizing heartbreak. All of those things have been accompanied by witchcraft. The healing that I've experienced around all of those things was sponsored by witchcraft. And so I'm very passionate about that. And that is why I wanted to write a book that really encapsulated that belief that I have, that witchcraft can see you through the darkest possible times, that it's the times when you're on the floor, in the dark, alone, not sure what the hell to do, and everything feels like it's crumbling apart. Those times you break glass in case of emergency and you grab the wand, the proverbial wand, you know? And it really gives you so much, and it enhances life so much, and it holds you so much, and it gives you so much solace, so much so much sort of access to radical optimism. I think all of those things I truly believe. And that is the genesis. That's the origin story of Witch in Darkness. It was my opportunity to really speak to that and to say, Magick is for the moments when you don't know what else to do and you don't know where to go and you're not sure who you are and it's all scary. And yes, there are certain caveats to that, and I do go into those caveats in the book. But what I do say in the book is witchcraft is a huge umbrella, and there are a metric shit ton of different tools under that umbrella. There is something for you. There is something for you that will enhance you, that will strengthen you, that will give you access to your sovereignty and your divinity, help to put you in touch with those things you need to see you through when everything is just batshit bananas and everything has just gone to hell, right? So I wanted to write a book from that perspective. It looks at grief and fear and loss and addiction and life dramas and feelings of lack and difficulty with artistic endeavors and, you know, really sort of dealing even with the fact that we live on this burning, scary, wild planet full of problems, full of difficulties. In all of those different areas, there are opportunities for you to grasp hold of your sorcery, to conjure, you know, to magic make your way through these difficult things that are occurring, that you're experiencing, that you're processing. When I wrote Rebel Witch and I did the announcement video for Rebel Witch, which just for fun, I will leave down below, just so we've got a little time capsule here of that announcement video and this one. But when I wrote Rebel Witch, I remember saying that I wanted it to be a permission slip and a mode of activation. I wanted people to get to the end of the book and think, now I'm ready to do something. Now I'm ready to be in my sovereign spirituality, you know, and to grasp hold of the tools and use them in the way I want to. And I love the fact that I put that permission slip into the world, whether it felt that way for everybody that read it or not, it was intended that way. And that's what I really wanted to give myself to with it. Witch in Darkness is more of a kind of a hand, I feel like, a hand that reaches out through the difficulty and through the loneliness and through the fear and grasps the hand of another practitioner. You know, it's supposed to make you feel held. It's definitely supposed to be activating, and there's a lot of instructions in it, just like there was in Rebel Witch, a lot of advice, a lot of ideas and suggestions for sure. But what I definitely wanted to do without question was to provide a source of comfort, that you would go through the pages and you would feel that, yes, not only can you access these techniques and these different ways of doing things that could help you in certain circumstances, but also that you just feel that you spent time with a witch who actually gives a fuck about the fact that sometimes you're not at your best, you feel that you can't raise energy, you feel that you don't know what to do, you feel that you're in the midst of a crisis. And the book aims to witness your witchhood in those situations, in those very tense, high pressure situations. It really says, look, you're a witch when you're on the floor, you're a witch when you're in difficulty, you're a witch when you're struggling, and when you feel like you don't know what the next right action needs to be. You know, there's just a lot going on for you in your life. Witch in Darkness definitely has a different tone in some ways to Rebel Witch. It's still very much my voice. I can only write with my voice, guys. That's just how it is. But Witch in Darkness, obviously, because it's dealing with some of the most difficult shit that a human being can go through, the tone is very much one of, I'm meeting the reader where they are. I want to meet the reader at a point where they either want to prepare for a difficult time, or they're in the midst of a difficult time, or they know what it is like to go through difficulty and want to have witchhood as a vital part of their toolkit. And so I definitely am speaking to some very painful parts of the human experience and wanting to look at them through the magical lens. That was really the whole point of writing Witch in Darkness, was like, okay, we know about these different life areas that can be incredibly difficult, deeply challenging, starkly bleak. We know about these things. How do we bring witchhood to these things, mysticism to these things, spiritual wellness and spiritual hygiene to these things? How do we make it easier to access those tools while we're going through these difficult things? That's the whole point of the book. That's where I'm coming from with it. You do not need to be in a moment of crisis in your life to enjoy Witch in Darkness and to get something from it. But my aim with this book was that if you did feel that you're really in difficulty and you feel you're in over your head and something is actually ongoing in the moment that is causing you strife, that the book will provide a source of comfort, that the book will be kind of like a stable piece of ground that you know that you can stand on and feel supported. I want witches to feel supported, to be able to access the fullness of their toolkit when they're in the midst of the fullness of a shitstorm. That was the whole point of this book, and I feel like I made my point well. So for those of you who are wondering, Witch in Darkness is a similar sort of size to Rebel Witch, and again, as with Rebel Witch, it is separated into 3 parts. You've got your sort of introduction and part 1, and part 1 sets you up for what you're going to do in the book. It gives you the theory, it breaks down kind of the philosophy of the book. Part 2 is where it gets very instructional. Lots of ideas are being thrown at you. There's tons of different things that you can try in part 2. And then part 3 is your troubleshooting area, answering questions that might come up that you might feel are a block for you, further reassurances of what you can do and how you can do it and how it can work, even when you feel low on confidence. And so that's basically how the book is set out. I really wanted to go with a similar kind of layout to what I did with Rebel Witch because I felt it worked so well and it really helped me to get into the writing process doing it that way. So the introduction to Witch in Darkness is very personal, guys. I take you on a little bit of a tour through my timeline and break down for you why witchcraft has been so integral to my story and why it will continue to be so integral to my story. So I get quite up close and personal. And then we head in to part 1. Part 1 is where I really sort of set you up to be a witch in darkness. What does it mean? What does it mean to prep for a dark and difficult time in your life in terms of witchhood and how that's going to work and how that's going to accompany you? What does it mean to witch through extremes? What does that look like? What are the dangers of it? What are the positives of it? And what does it look like to be able to do witchcraft while you feel low energy, low confidence, you know, low on resources? So how do you raise energy as a witch going through a difficult time? How do you work with deity as a witch that's going through a total shitstorm? How do you do divination? How do you set up for spellcraft? All of these things in part 1, I talk about how we can approach them when we are not feeling like the most high vibe, best version of ourselves, but actually things are feeling very fucking ropey. So it's really looking at how we can still witch when those really difficult things are going on, when we're going through the tough fucking stuff. How do we make sure we've still got those witchy gloves on and we're ready to get in the game and have a serious fight with whatever it is we're facing down, you know? So part 1 really goes into that. And part 1 has write it and speak it sections at the end of every chapter. So at the end of every chapter, I have some things for you to work on as journal prompts, and I also have some fortifying affirmations. There are a shit ton of affirmations throughout this book, words of power, essentially, really sort of potent, gritty and real, but hopefully elevating and, as I said, fortifying words of power. You will find them at the end of every chapter in part 1 alongside the journal prompts. So I'm very excited about that. Part 2 is where we get very instructional. It's looking at what can be done in darkness. So we're really looking at the doing area of things with part 2. And part 2 includes all kinds of different life areas in which the shit could be hitting the fan for you. So we look at emotional darkness. We look at difficulties with things like connections, right? Relationship dramas. We look at dramas in terms of creative droughts and obstacles there. We look at spiritual difficulties like crises of faith, for example, and not being able to move forward spiritually. We look at addiction. We look at scarcity and lack. So there's all these different things. We look at physical health and wellness, mental health and wellness, and how the craft can be applied in each of these different life areas when you find that things are breaking down, things are scaring you, things are not going the way they need to be, and you're feeling really in high stress. You're feeling that things are very high drama, you know. The foundations have been rocked. The tectonic plates in one way or another are shaky. How does witchcraft come into that? And I offer techniques for rituals and spells and all kinds of things in each one of those chapters in part 2. So part 2, just like with Rebel Witch, with Witch in Darkness, part 2 is where the action happens and it is the bulk of the book. I give you lots and lots of techniques, lots of things to try, to tweak, to tailor, to come back to time and time again. I talk about family and what it's like when the family relationship is in darkness. I mean, there's just lots of different chapters. I've really thought this through. And in fact, the final 2 chapters of part 2 are probably 2 of my favorite parts of the book, really, because I get so real. I'm talking about witching on a planet that is in difficulty, collective witching, you know, looking at things outside of our personal needs and tapping more into the depth of feeling the collective need, how difficult that can be and what we can do about it as witches. And then I also talk in the final chapter about the difficulty that comes with goodbye. You know, grief, actual bereavement, grieving people that have died, saying goodbye to life phases, saying goodbye to things that didn't work out as you wanted them to, going through that sorrow and how to process that sorrow in your witchhood. How does witchhood come into it? That's really the point of the book. It's where the dark difficulty of the worst parts of life meets with the majesty of being a witch in your power. And as with part 1, Part 2 also contains, at the end of every chapter, write it and speak it sections. So you get your juicy words of power and you get some things to journal on. But what I'm really excited about with part 2 of Witch in Darkness, which didn't happen with Rebel Witch, but is new and sparkly and shiny for Witch in Darkness, is that in part 2, every single chapter also has an associated suggested tarot reading. So I'm coming in with the spreads, okay? So many of you are clients of mine. You've had a reading with me over the course of time, at least one. And you know that I am very passionate about really top tier spread positions, designing incredible, empowering, paradigm bending tarot spreads. That's what I love. I'd do that if I never got paid for it, guys. I would do that week in, week out if I never made a dime from doing it, okay? The fact that I'm a professional card slinger definitely goes some way towards making me very attuned at designing really good spreads, but I would design spreads just for fun for the rest of my life. So it is thrilling that I got to give you guys a tarot spread for every single chapter of part 2. And then part 3 is where we go into the troubleshooting. I'm going to answer common questions that come up with witches in my mentoring work, in my online life. I really draw from the benefit of my experience working with witches, advising witches, and being in community with witches. And I do that throughout the book. You know, there's a lot in there about what I've learned from being a witchcraft mentor. But I think in part 3 of Witch in Darkness, that really comes through heavily because I'm actually really answering common questions that I'm asked. I'm answering questions like, I don't feel I can raise any energy or do anything, or, you know, I'm really at the baseline level of my energetic resources. So how the hell do I do magic? I answer questions like, I don't know if I even believe in magic anymore. So what do? I answer questions like, I can't contact my deities. They're not answering me back. The gods have gone silent. What do I do about that? I answer the question, is it dangerous to do magic? Will it make my situation worse? You know, every single kind of little fear and insecurity and uncertainty, every shaky kind of area that you could come into as a witch that wants to use the craft to sincerely help you with real life trouble. I try to pack in to that last part 3, so I can really leave you feeling as sturdy and as certain of your ability to use the tools of the craft as possible. So it kind of rounds things off really nicely. And again, you get those write it and speak it parts at the end of those chapters as well. There are 3 internal illustrations, just as there were with Rebel Witch. And I selected an amazing artist that I've followed for a long, long time called Polina Perova. I told her that I wanted something radical, something beautiful, but also something that could have been carved in the days of yesteryear, you know, something that looks like it could be kind of like a woodcut type of style. And I just love what she produced for me. I gave her very careful, detailed instructions of what it is that I wanted. And I didn't have, honestly, she left no crumbs and I had no notes, essentially. I was just like, yes, that's exactly what I want. As soon as she came through with the designs, I was like, okay, now we're cooking on gas. Now the book has the characteristic feel that I really want it to have. And as with Rebel Witch, we've gone ahead and used motifs from the artist for the chapter headings and for the different sections. So it's rather a visual feast as well. And I really like that about it. In fact, all of the bullet points in Witch in Darkness are little pentacles. They're little pentacles. I just can't. I just can't. I'm so thrilled with what it actually looks like honestly, when the formatting came back to me and I saw it all, I was just like, yes. It's a yes all the way through me. I'm so happy that it looks the way that it does. I'm going to go ahead and actually read for you now the chapter breakdown, okay? I want you to know, I want you to get a taste for what is in this book, all right? So we start with the introduction. Then part 1 is called Raw and Real Witchcraft. And in part 1, you get chapters called Sacred Imperfection, Prepping for Darkness, Things Look Different in the Dark, Witching Through Extremes, and Make It Low Maintenance. And you know that when I'm coming in with a chapter like Make It Low Maintenance, that we are going to be talking about how to make it a little bit less fiddly and flowery, a little bit more accessible, and give you a lot more confidence with it when you feel like confidence or energy might be low, you know? So that's a big part of the theory of Witch in Darkness, is kind of like, why does it need to be something that we get so much difficulty from doing that we barely can finish, right? Fuck that. We're not doing that with Witch in Darkness. Part 2 is called What Can Be Done in the Dark. And here the chapters are Selfhood in Darkness, Family in Darkness, Mind in Darkness, Feeling Through the Dark, Body in Darkness, Bonds of Darkness, Dark Drama, The Darkness of Lack, Dark Artist, Spiritual Darkness, Quitting the Darkness, World in Darkness, and The Darkness of Goodbye. So we're going into the murky, difficult depths of a lot of different life stuff. Part 3, that's called Extra Support. And in part 3, you get 3 chapters, Fear and Uncertainty, Helplessness and Low Self-Belief, and Frustration and Doubt. And then you get to read my super long acknowledgements, because there was a lot of people to thank over the course of this process. So yeah, I'm really, really thrilled to be able to give you a little taster of what's going to be on offer. I'm absolutely delighted. I couldn't be more delighted with others for helping me, with Watkins Publishing, my amazing publishing company, for putting this together. They're not my company, but, you know, the publisher that I work with. And I couldn't be more delighted and grateful also to myself. Let me just pat myself on the back for one moment, because this process was not easy, okay? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why that was now before I close this video, because I want to get really, really real with you guys about this, okay? I want to get super honest. Do I do anything else on this channel? I don't think so. So let's just get into it a bit. Guys, when I wrote my first book, Rebel Witch, okay, when I wrote this book, I was going through quite a tumultuous time, okay? And I've spoken about it recently on my channel with my toxic relationship video, so I'll leave that down below if you want to know some of the stuff I was going through when I started writing this baby, because it was not easy, okay? And if you've seen that video, you will be nodding vigorously right now, at least inwardly, because you know what I mean. It was a tough time that year. And then I thought to myself, okay, that shit show has ended, that relationship is over. The rest of the writing of Rebel Witch will be absolutely straightforward, and I will enjoy every moment. And then COVID happened and everybody got stuck on a bunch of lockdowns, and people's lives were absolutely shaken to the bastard core. And I wrote the rest of my book mostly on lockdowns and mostly living alone. So that was wild, okay? That was wild. And I thought to myself, the writing of Witch in Darkness will be much more smooth sailing. This will be an interesting process, writing Witch in Darkness, because even though I'm writing about difficult themes, and I'm going to be drawing on some of the most difficult things that I've been through and that I've helped other witches that I've mentored through, essentially, I'm in a good place. I'm in a better place, right? Then 2022 came, and I went through an absolutely agonizing, and still am going through an absolutely fucking agonizing bereavement out of nowhere. As I was writing a book called Witch in Darkness, I got plunged into the most shadowy, terrifying, and life-shattering darkness of my existence so far, when I lost my brother. And it was just almost sickly poetic, sickly fucking poetic. And of course I had to stop writing the book straight away. I immediately stopped everything. I mean, you can't do anything else in those circumstances. You just can't. And I took a long hiatus from the book. Not that long though. It wasn't that long of a hiatus that I took that you would expect. It was like 2 months before I said, I'm ready to come back to it. I need it for my sanity. I have to get back into work. I must get back into seeing clients and doing the things I was doing before, at least to some measure. I wasn't doing it full time by any measure, but I was slowly coming back in to my routine because I realized in the very early stages of the bereavement that I needed that. I had to have something like that, or things were going to get very dangerous and dicey. And for those of you who've been with me for a while, you know that I have struggled, and I still do continue to struggle, and I will do all my life with mental health issues. And what you also know is that I have put a lot of tools in place to be able to keep destructive behaviors at bay. I was not convinced I would be able to keep them at bay unless I started to take some actions again that were akin to the actions I was taking before my brother's death. And so I came back to the writing process. That was a mistake. Coming back to my client calls and things like that, absolutely what I wanted and what needed to happen. Coming back to the writing of Witch in Darkness, not a good idea. It was too soon. And so I started trying to write it again. And honestly, it was agonizing every time I approached the content of the book, which I believe in so much and which I wanted to put my whole heart into. Something would just go wrong in my nervous system, really wrong. And I had to stop. And I told Watkins, I've got to stop, guys. Like, this is just not good for me. Of course, they totally understood. They put the publishing date on hold because we were supposed to publish in October 2023. And we knew, like, okay, that's just not going to fly. It's not going to happen. We need to just like slow this down. And I stopped for a big bunch of time, a gigantic bunch of time. And I finally came back to the writing of the book in late summer 2023. And so there was a big chunk of time there where I was just out of the writing process, dealing with what I was going through, giving myself that extra time, that space, that support. And I'm really glad that I did that. And then I came back to the other half of the book, basically, and was like, I can do this now. I have the notes from where I left off, and I'm gonna go balls to the wall. I'm gonna get back into this. And you know what was so interesting about that process of coming back to this book? The fact that I had to reshape my relationship to it. I realized that I hadn't been wanting to talk to my book. I was angry with my book. I thought it was just ridiculously, painfully ironic that this would be the book that I would be writing at such a time in my reality. And I realized, you know what? I need to talk to my book again. I need to listen to what the book wants to be and pay attention to and take the instruction of the book when it comes to how I should come back to it. How are we going to come back together? This project needs water. It needs light. It needs love. And I have put it on hold and put it to the back of my mind for so long. I've come back to it. It's still the same book. It still needs to be written. It still contains the same difficult, dark themes. But I'm a different person now. And I know I believe in this project. I know that I don't want to bin this project. I know that if anything, I'm ridiculously more qualified now than I was at the beginning to be the witch that would write this fucking book. And so, goddess damn it, I'm going to write it. But I have to get right with the project. I have to fall in love with the project again from where I am now and with who I am now. And that was really hard and really, really gratifying. It was such a ridiculously unique situation in which I found myself. And I'm so proud of myself for doing that and going the distance and bringing this book to completion. And hopefully for some of you watching, for bringing it to you, for bringing it to your collection of resources. I hugely, hugely hope that I have managed to do these themes justice. And I know, as always, that there are going to be things I could have done better, things I could have changed, things that don't go over as well as I wish they had done or whatever. That's fine. I cannot let perfectionism push me into procrastination. I cannot let my fear stop me from following my bliss. I just can't. And I didn't. And I brought this to fruition in the most difficult of circumstances without abandoning myself, without overlooking my need for a lot of space and for a lot of compassion. And for a totally different publication date than I previously planned and all of those things. I was kind to myself. I loved myself, but I also Marcus Aurelius that shit, as I always knew that I could. I knew I had it in me to come to something hard, really, really, really hard, and to feel moved and evolved and nurtured through finishing it. I'm so proud of myself, guys. I am so proud of myself. And I want to thank so many of you for believing in me, for staying the course with me, for picking up Rebel Witch, for telling me what you liked, what you didn't like, for reviewing it, for sharing it, for raving about it online, for hashtagging, using the hashtags. Thank you so much for using the hashtags, guys. Now when I go to the hashtag Rebel Witch on Instagram, it's just my book in my face. And I really, really appreciate all of that. I appreciate so many of you. Thank you so much, especially to my patrons who were my little guinea pigs for Witch in Darkness. You listened to excerpts of the book. I read you 3 or 4, I think, altogether, excerpts of the book, long excerpts, and I really appreciate you for biting into it, for telling me what you loved about it, for giving it your appreciation and giving me the space to be able to show you what I was creating as I was creating it. That meant so much to me. So thank you in particular to my patrons. And there are so many other people to thank, but they're all in the acknowledgements of the book. Thank you, my darling, for watching this video, whoever you happen to be and however long you've been with me. I appreciate you. Now, as it may not shock you to know, I used witchcraft to be able to help me to finish this book in the most trying of times. Rebel Witch, I'm sorry, but you've got nothing on Witch in Darkness, okay? You tried to be a book that was going to challenge me in the finishing of it. Absolutely not. Witch in Darkness wins, okay? That was hairy for a time. But it won't surprise you to know I did use witchcraft to be able to finish this book in these trying circumstances. Over on my Patreon, I'm going to be sharing with my doll faces and Pop-Tarts six of the key witchy secrets, okay? Things that I use to be able to keep me in the zone and get me over that fucking finish line. I want to rave about the witchy aspects of my process for completion of this project. If you're already a patron, then that video is up now in tandem with this one. So go over there, check out that Afterthoughts episode. I'm going to leave you a lot of witchy goodness in there to help you to really deal with whatever it is you're going through in a way that will also enable you to enrich, nourish, and complete whatever projects you have on the table. If you're not a patron, you're going to need to be a Pop-Tart or a doll face to get access to this witchy content. So please go ahead and become one. It is not just for the sake of this video that I'm putting out today. It is also because there's printables on there. There's Discord access on there. There's the 1-card riff video every single month. There's the ability to do the poll video option. So you can tell me once a month what to make. There's a ton of stuff, guys, that you can get your hands on if you are a patron of mine. So go over there, you know, join any tier you want to. But if you want access to the Afterthought series where I give further details and deeper dives, then you'll need to be a Pop-Tart or a doll face. Thank you so much for your time today. I hugely appreciate it. I can't wait to share this with you in October. And you can pre-order from many good reputable book outlets now. Okay, I'm going to leave a link down below that will take you to the details over on Watkins Publishing, because I do not want to tell you where to buy this book. You go where you want, you spend your money where you want. If you want to pre-order from your local bookshop, go right ahead. If you want to buy from anywhere online, go right ahead, okay? I'm not telling you where to buy, so I'm going to link you to Watkins Publishing, and then you can decide where is the place that should get your money and where you feel like you want to pre-order Witch in Darkness. Thank you for your consideration as a potential reader of my new baby. Much love, my darlings, and blessed be. Mwah.